So I don't know, I lost my other video. It happens so often. I really wish Instagram would get the live streaming game more reliable, because it makes it hard to dedicate all this time and then not have anything that I can refer back to for people. But hey, what's up? Welcome back if you're coming back. Instagram stream died out on me. What's up, everybody? Instagram stream died out on me. So because the shadows are changing so quickly and I have nothing established on the foreground right now, I have to move from the sky down into the foreground, or else I'll be screwballed, because though it's not a predominant piece in terms of composition, the bottom of the painting is essential, obviously. So I got to get it in and get the color as awesome as I possibly can in the time that I have, which is very limited right now, because I didn't realize I was so into the sky that I didn't see that the entire foreground landscape is just disappearing right before my eyes. Is going to be gone almost, you know, and very soon. Yeah, I mean, that can be a really tough thing for me on location. I get so interested in something, I completely forget about other stuff. And I think it's a common sort of conundrum. You know, you're really invested in a certain part of a painting or a figure or something else, and you forget about the room or whatever it is you're painting. And that really can make finishing a work well problematic, for sure. So I'm hoping I'm going to be able to recover this in enough time to get something cool out of it, but I don't know. It's tricky. Everything is changing so quickly right now, because the big clouds that I was painting, the shadows are crawling forward fast. Which is making it really hard for me to get really accurate color fast. I'm struggling right now to get the colors that I'm looking at down correctly and quickly. It's very hard. This is the part that I was saying before too, that I'm prioritizing the big panel in terms of, if I fail at this whole vision, can I take anything away from this experience that would be good, that would let me paint again, that would fund my next effort? You know, it's kind of a hybrid. Like, I'm trying something difficult creatively, but I'm also mindful that I need to have an escape plan. You know, I don't think there's anything wrong with pragmatism when it comes to taking risks creatively. You know, I take risks often in my shows and put up stuff that people are, you know, frequently surprised by, don't like, you know, or is polarizing. A lot of times it works out well in the long term, but it also requires strategy, because if I only did that, people would be too confused, you know, or I would lose sort of collectors who really have come to like a certain kind of my work, and I wouldn't have anything else. So I kind of look at creative process as like a moving bell curve. And the center point of what I'm up to is what people usually know me for at any particular time. Like, I didn't paint landscape until 2010. Nobody knew I painted landscape until I started painting it. And when I started painting it, it wasn't very good. It took a while for me to get good at it. And then, you know, as I started to feel like I was getting a sense of what I was interested in, people came to be, you know, used to a certain degree of realism and representation, which I've since, you know, left behind, and now people kind of expect something that isn't quite that realistic and representational, and the bell curve of what is the most work I'm doing and most identifiably mine has moved along a continuum. And so similarly, when I take a creative risk, like right now, you know, these asymmetric weirdo paintings, you know, they're not things that people know a lot about. I mean, like I said, I've sold some, and it's not like they're completely unusual. I'm not all of a sudden doing Francis Bacon figures or something, but they are different temperament for sure. And if I didn't acknowledge that and all of a sudden I just did a giant show of that work, you know, it could work fine depending on the gallery, but it also isn't actually true to how I feel about landscape. Like, I'm still very interested in the other stuff I'm up to. And so there's this balance of, well, how do I make space for something new while also acknowledging my interest in what has been happening, and acknowledging kind of what I know will allow me to keep creating, right? I guess I'm just sort of musing on the general experience of making a living doing something that's completely unpredictable, which is your creative process, and somehow having to, in order to stay authentic about it, stay real with what is unpredictable and close to the edge with it, while also being strategic about what is likely to sell or you know, allow you to keep working. Which I really struggled with that dance for a while. And then an artist friend of mine talked about how he liked that dance. And like, all it took was him saying, yeah, I really like the dance between what might sell and what feels like a risk creatively. And that really reframed it for me and helped me kind of come to enjoy it more, just the unknown of it. And enjoy kind of the balance of like, well, you know, people like my thunderheads. I know that, and it's hard to paint a thunderhead and not know that oftentimes they sell. But what's also true is that I still love painting them, and so I wouldn't want to stop painting them just because all of a sudden I saw lots of people were buying them. That would feel weird. And on the other hand, I wouldn't want to keep on painting them just because people have loved them previously. That would feel weird also. And so there's that balance of figuring out how to remain true to your kind of inner interests and voice, while also navigating putting food on one's table and all that stuff if you're doing it for a career like I am. I certainly am glad that I was able to do this for a while before I had a kid, I'll say that. Because finding my own, getting comfortable with the tension took a while. You know, it took a while for me to really get comfortable with that tension. And I mean, it's always a changeable thing. Every time I have a new interest and I try it out, there's a new tension and worry and uncertainty that accompanies it. But at least it's a little bit more familiar that there's going to be some uncertainty and there's going to be some newness to it all. So I got back up into the clouds and forgot that I really need to stay focused here on the foreground. Story of painting on location on a busy day like this. This is when I really want to make sure that I've had my paint set up and it's easy access, is for these moments, because now I have to paint like super fast. And if I don't have my paint sort of palette filled and all that stuff, it can get really tough really fast to finish a piece. And again, now I'm really having to prioritize just getting color down, and I'm gonna have to accept that this is gonna be a bigger studio effort than I had initially thought I would come out of today with. just is what it is. If I want to do this well, that's just what I have to accept. It's gonna rain on me. Ooh, lightning out there too. So for those of you who don't really know about lightning, it strikes far, far away from big storm centers and stuff like that. So it's something really, if you're out on location in the summer, you got to know about. Yeah, big time. And especially, there are storms that won't necessarily put out a lot of lightning, but this one looks like it just got big enough that it's starting off in the distance far enough that I'm not concerned. It's about 30 miles, but it's something I have to keep an eye on for sure, because it means that the thunderstorms are getting bigger than they were and are turning more into full-on thunderstorms than just big showers. So that's the reason I will pack up quickly. When I start to really see it, hear it, I won't mess around. Sorry. So for any of you watching, if you weren't watching earlier, if I didn't say it in a way that you heard it, always ask questions if you have any. Welcome. They're always welcome. Happy to answer. So beautiful. It's so tough because thunderstorms are so beautiful, you know, so just tremendous and compelling. And it's sad when I have to leave because of the lightning, but not worth the danger. I mean, I know I'm out a lot longer than a lot of people would be. I mean, I'm mindful of being very safe about it, but I understand some people just don't even go out on days where there's any thunderstorm clouds anywhere on the horizon. I'm not that kind of person, but I do want to stay alive for a very long time doing this, so pretty obvious, easy choice. So I was saying earlier, you never quite know what's going to happen with the weather, and good example is right now, some of the thunderheads that I was most expecting to be the problem today, in terms of what I thought would rain me out, have dissipated. And other stuff that I didn't even see, wasn't even here, has showed up. You know, it's such a dynamic, fluid thing in the atmosphere. It's always changing. Which is, you know, it just makes it really hard to predict when you're out on location. There's just you can't make that challenge and that uncertainty go away. So the blue I'm painting now is not a blue that I'm seeing in many places in the painting, right? At this point. This is a blue that I saw earlier, which I took a mental note of. I even scraped color back because I realized I had already, even when I was looking at it, I'd put a color that was too dark down. This was a really bright blue that was very early on. Hey, watching from Spain, cool. That makes me happy. And here I am in New Mexico, New Spain. So it's a trick to do this because I'm fabricating some color memory right now. You know, I'm pretty clear on what it was, and I had some color already down, so I know what I did wrong before. And so that's why I'm doing it. I think it frames the painting better than the current sort of all over cloud situation. Clamp came undone. Oh man, the weather. Oh my God, it just keeps on getting better. I don't know what to do now. Oh man. I lost some color in the foreground. I couldn't get down here in the foreground to do where I am right here in the sun in good color. Luckily so in terms of prioritizing on location, I am more comfortable painting Pinon and Juniper from my own memory of color than I am, some random spot in the cloud or something else. The foreground Pinon Juniper color, I have a lot of paintings about it. Hey, what's up, Emmett? Nice to see you, buddy. So I can work well from my records and my memory on the Pinon Juniper. But it's harder to work well from my records and memory on other subjects. So I always, as I'm setting paintings up, there's kind of this, arithmetic going on in my mind about what I think I can, where the highest risk, lowest risk areas are, where the highest reward, is in terms of my attention. If I put my attention in a certain area, am I going to get a lot of good, special stuff out of it, or is it something that I can probably wait on? The most fleeting moments in the clouds that are the most compelling and inspiring are going to be the things that I want to make sure that I capture. And the stuff that I think will be more likely to hang on for a long time, I don't touch until I absolutely have to because of color, context, or because I have a free moment where everything else is a little calmer. Right now I had to, because of color context, at least get what I feel like is the light in. And especially right this second, there's a break in the clouds that's giving me full sun in areas that I've missed it for a while. So I managed to also pick a pretty good time to try and do this. So I'm very much a proponent of painting from direct observation. That's my sort of central tenet of at least my on location work. But it's a sort of goal that exists in relation to other goals, which is one of the others is make sure that my painting is good, therefore is finished, is feels thought through and balanced, has a sense of place and dynamism. We'll wait for this truck to pass. And direct observation isn't always the exclusive best answer for those things. You know, at some point as an artist, you also have to make your choices and take artistic license to break your own rules as long as it's in the service of something better. Are summer clouds my favorite to paint? No. I think everything is my favorite to paint for a while, and then I grow fatigued and I have to move on to something else. So I love painting summer thunderheads, yeah. And I've spent years trying to understand them because I really love them, and they were something I didn't understand and I struggled with. And so I want, you know, I've invested years in them, but that they're not my sole favorite thing. No, I get fatigued on them. You know, I really, after painting enough clouds, I have to go paint structures or something that's really angular and firm. I start to feel a little like loose, too kind of like woozy painting clouds over time. But I certainly prefer painting summer clouds to, you know, pets. I don't have any interest in pets, and I don't know if I ever will, for example. Some people love painting pets. I don't really, you know, animals altogether, I love them. I have many, but I don't seem to want to paint my animals. So yes, in that sense, summer thunderheads are among my favorite subjects, because I really only paint subjects I really like. I tell you, it's hot today. It's like 85 or something, and in the sun here, it is toasty. So painting stuff like this is a give and take. You know, I for example, I went into the foreground, and now I'm back up in the distant mountains because I like what's going on in the distance. And so I give some time to the foreground, and then I give some time to the sky. Maybe it's all a give and give and give. But also in certain areas, you know, I just painted a mountain line. I painted it too high into the sky, and now I'm bringing the sky back down to the mountain. You know, when I did the pinon and juniper in the foreground, they're not done. They currently are sort of floating. They seem to me to be floating without a place to exist. They're not sitting well in the scene. They don't feel like they have their own gravity, and that's just because I started one part. I gave a lot to the juniper, but I didn't give much to the sagebrush and chamiza beneath it. And so next I'll go back, you know, to that, and I'll give more time to the chamiza and sagebrush beneath. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Yeah, I like summer storm clouds. I mean, I was being, I guess, a little bit clever about the answer, but yes, I love painting clouds, adore them, and after a while, you know, I get fatigued and I got to paint something else, and then I go back to them. I mean, I was itching to paint them. I've been waiting. I've been like chomping at the bit, waiting. The shoulder seasons in New Mexico. Oftentimes are when I go and paint more directional paintings about light, because, you know, I don't necessarily want to, I don't know, be out on just a flat light day. I like dynamic light, and I like moody light. You know, I like it when it's foggy and moody and kind of, you know, got a sort of poetry in the obscuration of things. And I like bright dynamics too. But sometimes the shoulder seasons in New Mexico lack both. And in those days, I go into the studio and do other work. Whew. How many sessions does a painting like this take on site? Just one? Sometimes. I mean, I won't take this back on location, so in that sense, it'll be just one session. But the painting this is going to require quite a bit in the studio, more than I expected. And that could take a while, you know, a week, or it can take a couple hours, or it can take a week, or it can take, you know, a few days of constant painting, or a week of just occasionally touching it, depending on what the painting needs. But in terms of plein air, thunderhead stuff is rare if I bring it on location twice, because no day is the same. No 2 days are the same, ever. And even the patterns between days can be dramatically different. It's unusual that I'll get multiple days in New Mexico with the same type of thunderhead development, which matters in terms of direction of light, in terms of the structure of the clouds and how that affects what happens in them light-wise. So, you know, I would need like a string of 3 days of 10% chance thunderstorms to have the same kind of light and conditions be reliable enough that it'd be worth me spending all this time to set stuff up and break it down. Fall storms here, winter storms, those I can come out repeatedly over and over again over the course of a few days if they keep happening, because they're not as changeable and reliant on kind of micro change, you know. Whereas the thunderheads really, a 10% chance of storms means they're going to be on only certain mountains. A 20% chance of storms means they'll be on some knolls and some big mountains. A 30% chance means they'll be like today, where they start on the knolls, the mountains, and sort of even the plains and the wide open spaces, and then they fill in everywhere. And so I really need consistency across days to be able to rely on it, because, yeah, otherwise it's just totally different. Too much for me to account for. But when I can go out repeatedly, I do. You know, I like having that option. It's helpful. It's important. It's a part of the process I like, in terms of being able to see color more deeply. You know, the longer I work on a piece, usually the better it gets, as long as I don't really have an awful painting day. And so I like coming out 2 days in a row when I can, especially because it'll also give me a chance to, instead of like today, I'm just freaking going everywhere, worried about structure of the piece. You know, if I came out tomorrow and the conditions were such that I could, probably I would be able to focus much more in on nuance of color and on drawing in a way that's more accurate, you know, which is stuff that now I'm going to have to do in the studio, which is fine too, but just different. I suppose the one thing I really like about coming out multiple days in a row is it's not as frenzied the second day. You know, today right now, I'm sweating, I'm out of breath. I feel like I'm doing cardio because I'm running around back and forth, constantly jumping around, squeezing tubes, pulling, you know, it's very active. Second day on location will be a softer thing, which is great. So, hope that answers your question. Oh, man. totally different out there now. So the storms that I originally started painting, let me see, I'll just flip this around. We can talk a little. The storm I originally started painting, you know, is now way over there and is stretched out across the valley. It's gone like 30 miles more. And everything that was in bright sun here, I mean, this was totally sun when I started. There was no shade at all. Now it's totally shaded with just little spots of light peeking through the sky, and the clouds have built in such that it's I'm done on location basically. All I'm going to do is try and resolve things. If I feel like I have a memory, I'll try to resolve that, but otherwise I'm done. And then I'm going to have to go back to the studio and finish it. And so which I will do. I'm going to pack up and then go back to the studio in a few minutes and keep working as much as I can today. And yeah, so that's kind of what this looks like right now, which is a hodgepodge wild thing. There's a lot of good oh yeah, I'm glad. Thanks. Not an artist, but super inspired by the work. It's pretty fascinating just to watch. Great. Yeah, I'm super happy to hear that. So this, you know, this is good. It's okay. You know, I wish I got more done, but I knew when I started it this way that I probably wouldn't. And you know, it's got big globs of paint all over, which is useful in the sense it's good energy. Down here is very unresolved, and I'm gonna have to really work hard to get that resolved well, believably, for good reason. I mean, the other question I'll have is, maybe this is an opportunity to leave something a little more wild. I don't know, because I like some of the lyrical quality of the marks that are going on here, and I don't know how much more is necessary to convey a feeling that I really like. I know that I have lots of black flies in this right now, so I'll have to deal with those guys on this painting too. And here you go. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe I will try to stay a little longer because now there's some light out in the distance that I can work from a little bit at least. So we'll try a little bit longer at least, and I will remember to flip the camera around. Hey, there we go. All right, light crawling along the gorge. Yay, I can work with that. So the reason I'm not packing up this second to go to the studio is I want to make use of the light that's happening, because it's got a pattern that's similar to something I had unresolved before, and so I have this opportunity right now to try and resolve it. So that's one reason. And two is I've got residual memory in my body of light and feeling and you know, saturation and contrast, these things that were happening that I'd like to remember before I leave, because once I get in the studio, my attention's gonna necessarily go to different things than here on location. And so I want to make sure that I make the best use of my on location sensations while I have them fresh, and then I'll go back to the studio and I'll combine whatever I can in terms of inspiration and memory to finish the work there. Yeah. I don't know if you mean specifically about my painting, or the clouds in general, but I'll say, at least regarding the clouds in general, yeah, there is a sense of monumental quality to the clouds in New Mexico, especially. You know, kind of similar, I guess, to maybe when you're on the ocean, similar vibe. And here, you know, the high desert, sort of the moisture hits a lot of temperature heating fast, and it sends them up like crazy. And so I hope the paintings are also what you mean, and that there's a sense of monumental quality to the clouds in the paintings too. See that fall over? Uh-oh. I have like a 40-pound weight bag on there, but that's not doing anything. Okay. So that's outflow from a storm. I gotta make notes. Dealing with the wind, I don't know, you know? It's like 30 miles an hour right now. It's fast. I mean, you know, last time I was out here I lost a painting because of this kind of thing. I use silicone spatulas and brushes. Oh yeah, thanks, I'm glad you like the sense of scale on the piece. So you'd think with this wind I might just be like, oh my god, I gotta get out of here, but it's honestly really hard to pack in big wind, so sometimes it's kind of smart for me to wait a second, see if it dies down, and then make my getaway, which is what I'm going to do. Okay, so I'm going to sign off for now, but I'll be back in the studio in about half an hour. So if you're around and want to check things out, you could tune in then. Otherwise, thanks guys, and I'll try to post this to my story, so it should be up for 24 hours too. Adios.